hello. Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious Wealth. I have a very special guest with me. Please meet Danielle Desir Corbett, who is a former grants administrator turned full-time creative entrepreneur, a mama of one. So Danielle hosts the Thought Card podcast and loves to share creative ways to travel the world while building wealth. That's yummy. She also curates a monthly newsletter called Grants for Creators, a discovery tool for funding opportunities such as grants, accelerators, pitch competitions, and much more. So today we are continuing the season 2 of Harmonious Wealth called Womanhooded Wealth. Again, Danielle, thank you for coming on. You're going to share all about your 4-month maternity leave.
Oh my goodness. And before we even hit record, I was just teasing out and telling you that when I was pregnant, which wasn't too long ago, 2021, searching for this exact topic and it was crickets. So I had to really, really be creative, learn on the spot. And now on my platform, I share my insights because I know how difficult it can be. And of course, everyone's business looks different. So I'm excited to be here and provide resources and just insights from my experience.
Yes, yes. So you said in 2021, you were preparing for maternity leave. Can you set the stage and kind of tell us what were the initial stages? You mentioned searching online. There wasn't anything there. But what was your vision for maternity leave when you started?
Absolutely. So my vision was to be able to afford 4 months of maternity leave. And as entrepreneurs, me personally, I had no backstop. So I didn't have any state funding. I don't have 9 to 5. So it was literally, I knew I had to figure out how can I afford to walk away from my business for 4 months and still keep everything running and keep our finances intact. On my wish list was also maternity or parental leave, paternity leave for my husband as well, because I wanted him to be by my side
Right.
much as possible. So that was definitely on the wish list as well. And there was a lot of mental gymnastics, I would say, or mental drama about my place in my business when I come back. So are my clients going to forget me? They didn't. Just all this mental, just all these gymnastics about me coming back too was also on the line. But generally, it was 4 months, me and my husband to be able to be home and be with our son. And I definitely wanted to do more than the 3 months maternity leave that most people in corporate have because I'm an entrepreneur. I knew that I wanted more than what the standard US was. So 4 months felt like a good amount of time for me.
And that is great. Even with the 4 months, I've heard people go back as early as 6 weeks. And I'm like, I can't even imagine 8 and then max 8 weeks. And then if it's 12, they don't get paid those last few weeks. So to create just kind of turn it upside down for yourself and your family is beautiful. And to your point, being able to have your husband by your side versus going through all the nuances of childbirth, first off, healing from childbirth and going through the first the fourth trimester of just what is newborn phase. That is beautiful that you were able to do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can't stress the importance of intention setting, right? Having that quiet time, especially if you're in your pregnancy, having that quiet time to plan and to think, like you said, what was your vision? Having a vision was so important because that led me to, okay, figuring out what the next steps are and to realize that vision is very powerful as well.
That is so good. When you started your business, did you have a vision for family planning in the future? I know it's we can never really know exactly what it is when we have our children, but what was your thought when you first started your business on your vision for family planning?
Absolutely. So I started my business all the way back in 2015. So there was no family vision planning at that time, none whatsoever. But when I met my husband and I knew, okay, this guy is the one, we got married and we knew that we wanted to act quickly on starting our family. That's really when I started to vision and to think about what that looks like. This time was during the pandemic, so 2020, 2021, around that time. There's a lot of changes happening in the world and just in what we wanted. And for me, things like homeschooling popped up for me.
Mm,
And I was like, whoa, like this is different. Like I went to traditional school, so this is very different for me. But there was this longing that I had, okay, me being home, I would love to homeschool my child. That was something. Also, the work from home was really, really important. And when I left corporate, that was a big reason as to why. Like no longer did I have to do like 2 hour commutes one way. So the lifestyle abundance really became something that I could look forward to. So that was really, those are two things. Being home. Actually, right now, we decided not to do daycare at all. So it's like passing the
mm,
baby a
yeah.
couple days a week, passing the babies. I'm down to 2 hours and a half of work, like dedicated me time work. So I'm in a really good place, but it took a lot to get here. But that vision, that planning, and having a supportive partner is so important. That communication where my needs are prioritized, but also his needs are prioritized as well, I think really brings that harmony and balance to our family.
I love that. We'll definitely touch on the no daycare.
Yeah.
the no-
Oh, yeah. Yes.
but share with us, how did you financially prepare your business to have that both maternity and paternity leave for your family? What was going through your mind? What were some things that you did?
Absolutely. So I started with a simple Google search because I did not have a strong network that I could tap to for guidance and experience. So I started with a Google search and there was nothing, like very little, or it was like super thin and like not in depth. And pretty much I was like, okay, I have to really be creative here and start from zero. So what we planned out was we figured out what our monthly spending was as a family, and that became our baseline budget goal amount. So for example, let's say our spending was 5,000 times
Mhm.
4 months of parental leave, that became our $20,000 goal for us to save. So I knew that saving
Mhm.
was going to be a very big part of our parental leave plan, again because I we don't have any other additional income in terms of that piece. But I will say my husband was working a 9 to 5 job at that time. He did not have he got parental leave from the government. So if you
Mhm.
do work a 9 to 5 job or you have a partner, to see what your state government offers you, because we were able to tap into that. So that was a phenomenal resource, but we weren't sure at the beginning. So we still baked in that 20K for the four
Right.
months because we just weren't sure what money would be coming in. And that was peace of mind for us. Now, let me tell you, when you have a big savings goal like that in a short amount of time, it was a lot of stress internal for me of like,
Mm,
okay, how do I get this savings popping and going off when I don't have that much time? So after we figured out the number, we knew how many months, that big number, it became make as much money as you can during your maternity leave so that you can have this cushion and save. Luckily for us, we were able to do that, save that
mm,
money primarily through a little bit of more active income streams. So I was like freelance writing at that time. So I made sure to like try to capitalize on as much as I could in terms of active income, but I also created passive income streams as well. So things like digital products for me, like I do little workshops, like I made sure I offered new things in my business so that it could be out in the world and making income for us passively. Because what I have to tell you, ugh, I was so exhausted during my first trimester. And that's something that's
mm,
important to think about, right? Every
mhm,
pregnancy is different. And although I had all these aspirations and goals to go hard and save this 20K, so had the reality of you're not feeling that great today and you have no energy, and you may have to wake up, like you may be up at 3 a.m in the morning and having, your baby's making gymnastics in your belly and you're up, right?
right.
So it's navigating these like logistical, like financial pieces, but also in the confines of, hey, you're growing life. And I remember my husband had to remind me all the time because I would be so much like in my head and stressed about like what I could do. And he's like, your most important thing right now is growing life and being
Mm,
in a place of happiness and not being stressed out. So that was really helpful. So we do have to operate in our confines, but these are some of the things that I did to really get started and build that momentum.
I love that. That's the most important thing that we forget, especially when we're first time moms and we're like, we don't know what we don't know. And the emotions that you go through throughout each trimester period, right? I'm sure by the second trimester, you kind of felt a little bit better.
I did feel a little, I did. I felt like, I think they call it like the golden era or something. And
Yeah.
I tried to take advantage as much as possible during the second trimester and not feeling bad that I couldn't push through, right?
Yeah.
For the first, that was fine. I will also share that something to keep in mind as well, not only in terms of how we feel, but not everyone's term is 40 weeks. So
Right.
I actually had the savings goal of like, I need to save $20,000 in 40 weeks. Child, I did
Mm,
not. I was bedridden. Okay. We're complicated, very complicated. And to actually get rushed to the hospital by, I think, 30, 32. And we were just trying to hold on so that we could stay, like, have him inside for as long as possible. And we're able
yeah.
to get to 34. So that is a huge lesson that I've learned is do not, of course we can pray that we have a full term, all that, but in terms of the money, the financial piece, definitely estimate less time because you just don't know what your pregnancy will look like. And again, when I was bedridden, I couldn't take calls, I couldn't coach, I couldn't do some of the things
Mhm.
that really required me in my business. So that's why I always say if you have passive income, build that up, focus on building that up because that will help you and help you ride through those moments when you're not able to.
First, sorry that you had to go through complications. Not fun. It's not fun.
It is not. It's not
Mm.
fun. It's not fun,
And
but we made it. We made it. And I'm so grateful that I can share this success story because
right.
again, it's like, when I was doing the math, it was 40 weeks. Like that was the plan.
Mhm.
But luckily enough, we were able to pivot and make changes that despite the circumstances, we were still able to take that full month, that full 4 months leave.
What were your systems and what did your team look like during this time as you were preparing?
Absolutely. So I had at the time three facets of my business, one of which was a membership.
Mhm.
Memberships are high touch,
Right.
especially mine, where I was the lead coach. I was going in there, meeting my members, providing trainings and resources. And I knew this was not sustainable during my not only pregnancy, but my parental leave as well. So I actually offered up members of my community to work for me. So I had
Oh,
coaches, I had an administrator to help with the logistics, and I was able to train them up so that they felt confident when I I could leave, but also that my members were not impacted. So if you do have a high touch part of your business, think about, okay, is this something that I can continue to run without me, where I'm not necessarily having to be the talent? And that was possible for me. And I put people in place and positions to do the work, but also made sure that they felt comfortable and confident so that they don't necessarily need me. In terms of logistics and systems, I definitely use tools like Voxer for like walkie talkie, just being able to chat. I documented my systems from beginning to end, like literally every action item I took. I wrote it down in a manual and I also did like a Loom video, a walk tutorial video for them. And I always let them know, hey, I'm here if you need me right now while I'm not on
right.
leave. So I tried to just again train them up as much as possible. So that they could feel confident when I'm not there. That was that part of my business. Other pieces of my business, in terms of like my freelance writing clients and my very active coaching clients, like I let them know as soon as I could
Right.
share the news that hey, this is happening. Happy to do as much work as I can. You have extra work for me, I'm happy to take that on now, and letting them know these are my dates I'm going to be out and I will circle back with you when I come back. right? All of them were very gracious and happy and excited for me. So as long as you, I think, have communication with your clients, that really, really helps. And again, if you're like me, you had a goal of saving money, that hustle mode is activated, right? Hustle mode is activated. So those were really the main pieces. Because I think lessons learned, because I'm a creator and I have a travel podcast, I actually did not record enough episodes to be
Mm,
ahead. So if you are for example, a creator like me, and you have things that are coming out on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, plan ahead. That's a big lesson learned, because I had a bit of a gap where I'm like up against, like, I don't have that much wiggle room. I don't have that much bandwidth. And that was unneeded stress, right? I could have just batched ahead of time.
right.
So I think my biggest takeaway is, like, once you find out that you're pregnant, sometimes I feel like the clock is ticking,
Yeah.
and you have to really think about your priorities, like what's going to continue in your business, what's not going to continue your business, and let it go. If it's not, if you can't do, you can't do it all. So I spent so much time in my head just stressed, and
Mm,
it was unnecessary. And I think I could have done a little bit of better job planning in terms of what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to let go of as well.
I love that. Like now, going into it, you can help others, as they're planning, especially for like their first leave, right? And I'm thinking, like, since you had, based off of your business model, it seems like it was pretty lean.
Pretty
So
lean,
that
yeah.
that helps,
Yes, yes, it did.
because in order for you to save, you have to have pretty high profit margins at baseline so that you can, make sure that you're saving that substantial amount within that short time. So
Absolutely.
that's one thing that we want to consider, is just making sure that you have a profit plan that supports that savings goal, as you're going into maternity leave. So how was it when you were navigating coming back
Oh
back
yeah.
to work?
Oh yeah. So I feel like I was getting a little bit antsy, and this
Yeah.
anxiousness of being a first time mom and leaving my business for the first time. If I'm blessed with another child, it's going to be look different. It's going to look way different. I was anxious.
Mm,
So I started to come back maybe like around 3 month mark. I was starting to like check emails and
mm,
respond and like set things up for me. And I feel like I did not respect my boundaries, where it's like you set these boundaries with intention, you saved for it, like
yeah.
you did all the work you had to do. Enjoy this precious time that you will not get back. Okay. So I did feel this kind of anxiousness and pressure to come back, even though there was no real pressure, no real need. So that's something to acknowledge. But do think also when I came back, now we were in a different phase of life where, okay, my husband is no longer going to be here with me full
Mm,
time. And what are you going to do? Are you going to do daycare or not daycare? Our decision was not to do daycare. I'm very passionate about being home and really just soaking up all the cuddles. And now it became, how do I balance motherhood and business? And at
right,
the time, my business required 8 hours a day of me. Right.
right.
So from then and now, I'm down to 2.5 hours. I had to trim a lot, really be intentional, and prioritize what's important to me, which was family life and trying to keep
Mm,
a good profit too as well. But these are the decisions we had to talk about, like daycare, no daycare. Is it in the budget? Like, can we afford to do daycare? Do we even want to do daycare? And then now that we decided not to, how do we balance where I can still work and put time in and still have the support of my family as well? So those were some of the things that we talked about. In terms of finances, I don't feel like anything really was like a big hiccup at the time, because
mm,
I had that runway. I had enough. But I also feel like new opportunities started coming back now that I was preparing to kind of be back into my groove, because a big part of my work is travel. So a lot of this time I wasn't traveling, I wasn't doing anything, so that part closed. So now it was
mm.
about planting seeds for the next year, at that time. So those were some of the things that came to mind.
Now, I love that. because I'm thinking now, I'm kind of like thinking about like what is your business model now?
Oh, yeah.
Because you mentioned that you did a lot of like freelance work, some coaching, and now, with the little one, 3 years,
Lean. Yes. Yes. So, yes, I had to get rid of this scaling mindset at that time. Like,
Ooh,
I think there's a lot of like talk out there that you need a big team, you need to be scaling, you need to be like who. And there's a way that you can tactfully scale and grow your income with reducing your hours. It takes time and intention and experimentation. So I think a third level for me is not only did I know daycare, but I knew I wanted to homeschool. So that's another like trimming that goes on as well. Forgot your question. Can you say that again? One time?
no, no, this is all like is teeing up. So
Yes.
I was asking, what does your business model
Oh,
look like
yes.
now? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I wasn't ready for the fact that my interests would change so much with having and starting a family, to the point where I did not have an interest no longer in pursuing my membership anymore. I did not have the capacity, the bandwidth, or the interest to do a one to many offer in my business as well. I also had to do the math, and the freelancing math wasn't working for me as well. So, in terms of like how much I'm making per hour, freelancing didn't make sense any longer. So I shut that down. And then I also started to think about potentially shutting down my membership. Long story short, I was able to sell that community, which I think is an important mention, because you don't have to always shut things down. You can sell and hand things off, which is a very powerful place to be. I just, again, wasn't ready for the shifts in me, but I embrace them. I embrace that this no longer serves me, despite the income that it brings. This is no longer important to me. I actually started a new part of my business, which is the grants for creators, which you mentioned in my bio
Mm,
earlier. That started 3 a.m. while I was pregnant.
really?
It was an idea that came from baby K. He was just talking to me in the belly, and he was like, "This idea you've been talking about, like, let's do it." He's such a money guy. Like, he's 2.5, and he's a money guy. He's all money.
That
He's
is
very money
so
centric. I credit him like just gifting me this idea and pushing me to pursue it. So today in 2024, time of this recording, very, very lean. I have my travel business, my travel podcast, and my blog, Travel Creator. I also have Grants for Creators, which is my newsletter, my paid newsletter. And then lastly, I do one on one coaching on the side. So a lot of what I do is not dependent on anyone else but me, right? My
mm,
blogging, my podcast, that's me dependent. My newsletter, very me dependent. I could do these on my own time at my own pace. Coaching is the one offer that depends on other people, but it still feels good to me. I still love my work. But I feel good. I had to really come to a place where I need to be able to work on my own without
yeah.
having to depend on others. And I feel really good that I'm at this place right now.
Ooh, shout out to Baby K for
Ooh, right?
like kids literally like could save your life in so many different ways that it's like they don't even know it, but they like really just bless us. So that is beautiful.
Blessings. Yes.
Yes. And being able to like trim that time. You mentioned that you were wanting to build passive income when you were going on maternity leave and then potentially like had like other women doing passive income. Can you share a little bit about how to get started with that as far as like say someone they're not planning right now, but they need to rev up like their audience or whatever they need to kind of like build up that passive income?
Absolutely. So there are various different types of passive income. There is affiliate marketing, where you are recommending a product or service, and every time they make a sale, you get a cut. So I really love that for my travel business, because I can recommend things and gear and resources, right? So that works really, really well for that travel business. Another passive income stream that I also really love is private podcast, workshops, digital products, ebooks, e-guides. all of these, even courses, these are all things that you can take the knowledge you have, your experience, and you can share that and help your customers transform their lives in a mini way. I would say, like, a very small way, right? So that's
Mhm.
another income stream that I really like as well. And that stream does really well for my podcast coaching side of my business, because people who don't necessarily want to coach with me, they can still get this private podcast. They can get my templates. They can get certain things that will help them on their way. And then my biggest passive income stream right now is my paid newsletter, which back in the day, this wasn't even an
Mhm.
option for us, right? It was just free newsletters, but you can add a paywall to your newsletter, and that allows people to opt in and support you. And today I feel like it's really about 50% of my income now comes from that paid newsletter.
Okay.
Baby K's idea, which is
Wow.
becoming very, very fruitful. And that really has allowed me to, I don't have to necessarily take on all of the time for money projects, right? I can do this one time and every day make income from my paid subscribers. So these are some of the things that have helped. I also realized that there's seasons in our business as well. There's seasons like Black Friday is coming up. So that's a
Mm.
time where you're like, everyone's got something to sell. You better have something to sell as well, right? So
Right.
that's a time, if you're like, if you want to test passive income, digital products, that's a good time to test and see how you like it as well.
That is so good. Thank you. Any advice that you want to share to entrepreneurs who are planning maternity leave, paternity leave in the near future? What would you advise them, if anything that you didn't share already?
Yes. So I have a list. I have a very short list, but there's a list. And we touched on them a couple times. So I actually have a blog post that talks about some of the mistakes that I would avoid and I would encourage people to avoid. So one of them is shortening your planning time. Like we mentioned, like, not every pregnancy is going to be 40 weeks. So when the time is starting to tick, just estimate less time than you need. I think that is a very helpful when it comes to saving for your parental leave. We didn't touch on this, but hospital bills. As entrepreneurs,
Yes.
parental leave is just half of the story, because that
Right.
hospital bill comes and it's like, whoa, oh my goodness, right? So, in that mix, thinking about planning for hospital bills, because it's a lot. It's a lot, okay? um when you are with your baby, right, think less about work. You've done all the things you
Mm.
could at the time to prepare and plan. Enjoy the time that you have, because I thought it was time off, but it's not really time off. You are on 24/7. So just enjoy it. Like, think less about work and just enjoy this moment, because these moments are precious and you, again, won't have them back. And then ask for help. I'm so gracious and I'm so, like, just blessed to have solid, not only support system with my husband, but also our parents as well. But I felt
Mm.
really uncomfortable asking for help. Today I'm gonna be like, hey, I got this trip, can you take care? It's that I've literally, like, extended that muscle many times now, where I feel very comfortable. But at the onset, like, I just never really needed my parents like that as an adult. So moving into motherhood, where I literally have to be like, can I go on a date with my husband, please? Can you take care of him? Like, it's so different. But definitely, if you have that support system, definitely leverage it and use it. And then a financial tip I have for everyone is, have a separate bank account for your parental leave. Like, when you're saving all
Mm.
this money, put it separately from everything else. It will help you to know exactly how much money you have, where you're going, and you could see and tap into it as needed, right? Do not commingle funds. So that's a financial tip as well.
That's so good, because we could just assume that we're just transferring money over, but it's like we're going to use it for something else. So that's a great tip. That is a great tip. And thank you so much. Final question. What is your idea of harmonious wealth?
Harmonious wealth is having that peace of mind to, in many ways, be still and confident in your decisions, and
Mm.
to enjoy building, right? My mother-in-law says this all the time. She's like, we're not living to work. And I think sometimes as entrepreneur, we feel like we got to do certain things because it's all on us, right? And it is all on us. But I also feel like when you have a plan, you do the work, you can be still and you can be confident and you can be happy and enjoy what you've built and what you're doing. Those are my biggest lessons. Um, and I'm bringing them again. If I'm blessed with another one, these are definitely things that I will probably have to self coach myself and be like, remember last time, or remember this, right? And I think all the lessons I've learned in terms of parental leave, it spills into just general life things like saving for travel, saving for something big in your business or something big in your life. Like these are all principles that you will continue to build off and shape you as an entrepreneur and a mom, and a parent. So it's not just a one and done after, during parental leave and maternity leave. Like this will continue to impact and help you for years to come.
I love that. And it's like it's only just begun.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Only just begun. I love that for sure. For sure.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for sharing your wealth of information. I'm sure women who are listening, they're like, okay, let me kind of get my life together now so that, like, if I do, God willing, plan for this leave, I can have an idea, or even for any type of leave, like you mentioned, like if it's
Absolutely.
travel, medical stuff, anything, like, how can we really put this into place for our businesses? So I really do appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you?
Absolutely. The best place to connect with me is thoughtcard.com. There you can see my maternity leave articles and all of my travel and personal finance content. I'm also really loving Threads, and that's where we met, which is so
Yes.
fantastic. So, Threads, Instagram, the Danielle Desir be a great place to connect as well. I think it's actually the Danielle Desir Corbett. So, yes, I think that's the proper it's the proper place to connect with me. But thank you.
Yes, we'll definitely put it in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you
I
all.
was right. I was correct. Sorry. It was the Danielle Desir. There we go. The Danielle Desir.
Perfect.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Harmonious Wealth.